Did you know that the invisible load of being a woman, whether you are a caregiver or not, makes us sick and creates symptoms in our body? Join me this week as I unpack this invisible load, how to share it, and how you can be an active participant in preventing a lot of symptoms. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life.
Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I wanted to air this episode in January because one of the number one complaints that I get from my clients through the entire month of January is, why is my period going to hell in a handbasket? January is the most symptomatic month of the year for most women, and I did an episode on this back in season 3, so go check that out. But there's an account that I follow on Instagram. It's called MomWell, and she has a lot of really great infographics that stand out to me. And she talks about essentially the iceberg of things that happen underneath the experience of being a woman that makes us feel overloaded and alone and overwhelmed and tired. And I love the way she presents it. And it was actually the inspiration for this episode. Maybe I'll be able to get the creator on the show at some point, but we end up so symptomatic in January, or just symptomatic in general, because whether we're a caregiver or not, we're expected to be the master of all things. Holiday magic is ours. We do the planning, we do the logistics. If you're a mom, it's even bigger because you've got kids you're creating magic for, but it's more than just that. And that's the difference between the last episode that I did on this and this one, is I was focused very much on how holiday magic makes us have symptoms with our periods. But this is a much bigger issue. It's the fact that women in general are the planners in the household. We're expected to run logistics. We are everyone's memory. So just think about the reels that you see on Instagram about, honey, where are my keys? Honey, where are my keys? Honey, where are my keys? And they're literally sitting right in front of them because they're looking with quote unquote man eyes. I've had a couple of my girlfriends send me reels about it, and I have to laugh because this is something that a lot of us experience, right? But we're expected to remember all that stuff. I mean, I know in my own household, they're like, Mom, where's this? Honey, where did I put my wallet? Things like this. And if somebody moves something on me, forget it. I can't tell you where it is, or at least at this stage with postpartum brain and, trying to remember what day of the week it is a challenge for me at this point. But we are expected to be everyone's memory. We remember people's birthdays. We buy the cards. Do people still do that, or did I just date myself? When we go on a trip, we're the ones that typically pack for all of the little people. The list goes on and on. We make sure the laundry is done. We plan the grocery lists ahead. We make sure that the refills are done for medication. And that's just in our own household, but we're also expected to do it outside of our household, right? So there is a huge load that women mentally carry. And while we can do it all, when we don't honor our need for rest and to stop or to take a little more time for ourselves during our bleeding days, that's where we really get into trouble because our bodies are not designed to function like robots. And I mean, especially being a caregiver, because you are paying attention to all of the details of someone else's life in addition to your own. And, you know, anybody living in the 21st century knows that our current day to day lives, just as an individual person, has gotten significantly faster and far more crazy than it ever used to be between technology and being overscheduled and expectations continuing to climb in terms of showing up and social media creating this Pinterest perfect world. Like, I can't tell you how many years I get Christmas cards from dear friends of mine, and I feel so much guilt that I didn't get my own out. I mean, this year is my son's first Christmas, and there's just been logistically so much going on between adjusting to life with a newborn and other things happening on the family front, on the personal side of things, that all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, I did not set us up to do family photos for the holidays. How many of you are like nodding your head right now? Right? But it was up to me to remember that. I laugh because, like, I'm dealing with postpartum memory, and yet that still falls in my wheelhouse in terms of things that I do or need to remember. So, you know, we tend to really get on ourselves, like, and this concept dovetails with libido too. So that I want to make this connection as well because it not only creates menstrual issues, more clots, more cramping, heavier flows. These are really common symptoms. Like, people who work with me, they're like, oh, my period was so great until January. And then out of seemingly nowhere, I started having cramps again. I started having clots again. Like, what did I do wrong? And it's like, well, you didn't technically do anything wrong. You just didn't embrace the energy of the season. And this really overflows into other aspects of our life too. Women's energy moves in alignment with our hormones. We have this intricate dance of hormones that happens all month long. It happens whether we are in our bleeding years or we are postmenopausal. It does not matter. We have a dance of hormones. That dance changes, but we have a dance of hormones that's always happening. We are not little men. We do not have the same expression of hormones day in and day out, Saturday through Sunday, 365 days a year. We just don't. That is actually a gift, even though we have not been taught to look at it that way. So while it gives us talents and gifts and nurturing energy and all of these things, slowly there starts to become this burden on our awesome planning skills that we get in our luteal phase, for example, that becomes more and more of a load that we can't shoulder alone. And I have a lot of women who come into my practice and go, I don't have a libido. Like, I love and appreciate my partner, but like, I just don't have any sexual energy whatsoever. And I ask them about their stress load. Stress is a libido killer, men and women both, by the way, but particularly for women. Because when we have a really busy mental space, like, oh, did I call and make this appointment? Did I call in this refill? What day is this thing supposed to arrive again? Oh, did I call that person back? Like, think about it. All the things. And for a lot of us, particularly if you're in or close to your perimenopausal years. All of that joyful stuff tends to happen between 1 and 3 in the morning. You are wide awake and your brain is trying to solve the world's problems, right? I usually have to tell her, "Bitch, sit down and go back to bed. You are not gonna be able to function tomorrow morning if you do not go back to sleep." And a lot of times that's easier said than done. But a lot of women struggle with sleep during this time frame, particularly when they're more stressed or when they're in this transitional phase of their life. But all of these things are a libido killer. When we are worried about what our toddler is getting into or where the next meal is going to happen, or did I put the thing in the crock pot? I'm notorious for forgetting that one, much to my husband's chagrin. I have a great plan. Then I get distracted and busy, and the demands of the day get along. And he comes home and he goes, "Did you remember to put the dinner in the crock pot?" And I'm like, "Oh, damn." But when we forget, there's a little internal conversation about, "Oh, shit, I fucked this up again. I forgot." And like there's shame and guilt that go into that cycle. Who feels ready to jump and have a roll in the hay when they're feeling guilty and shame? Anybody here? Yeah, no. No, not me either, right? So, when we forget things, we have very little mercy for ourselves, and so much of everybody's day-to-day is reliant upon our ability to remember things. We remind our partners to make a follow-up call. "Did you call about this appointment? Did you ask about your test results? You know, did you take the car for inspection?" Like, all this stuff. Like, we're expected to remember all of this. And the more people you add to this Rolodex, yep, I'm dating myself again, this Rolodex that you're supposed to keep in your head all the time, the more things that get added to it, the more things begin to fall off the plate because we're only human. So it's really, really unreasonable to expect that you can remember everybody's birthday, everybody's anniversary, that there are clothes in the washer that need to get moved to the dryer, that this kid has a practice at this time, that my mother-in-law has an eye appointment at this time, and I need to coordinate a driver to get her there because she is mobily challenged and can't get into my car. Like, whatever it is, that's why I said caretaker and I didn't say mother. Because as we move into our perimenopausal and menopausal years of our life, that caretaking shifts from children in our own home to our parents and grandparents. So it doesn't matter what kind of caretaker you are responsible for remembering literally everything. That is so much energy. And then we're shamed or feel shame around the inability to be aroused or to have a libido. But we're expected to work like we're little men and have a libido that responds like a man. Like, let's just unpack all of the juxtaposition that I just put out there, right? This is like that beautiful, beautiful monologue that America Ferrera does at the end of the Barbie movie. I didn't know how I was gonna feel about that movie going into it, honestly. I was a little worried that it was gonna be, like, very stereotypical and portray feminine energy in a certain way, and I was pleasantly surprised at actually how rebellious it really was, and where she was talking about the fact that you need to be beautiful and skinny, but eat, and be sexual, but a lady, and, like, mother, like, you're a stay-at-home mom, but not contribute to your income, right? Your household income. So it's like all of these double standards that women deal with. And then we get to our bleeding days and go, "I don't understand why my cycle is off the rails. I don't understand why my libido is shot." I have had a couple of clients in the past who, when they start to get stressed out, they start to feel a sinking, heavy feeling in their pelvis. Well, spleen qi in Chinese medicine is responsible for that lifting and holding energy. It helps to hold the hollow organs up where they belong. And when we are too stressed and we are spreading our energy in too many places, particularly with mental overwork. Okay, I'm going to say that again. When we're spreading our energy in too many places, particularly with mental overwork, overthinking, worrying, we tax that energy in our body. So the more we tax that energy and we don't pause and give ourselves mental rest and self-care and try to distribute the load so that it's not all on you, things begin to sink. So prolapse, saggy breasts are all signs of sinking chi. I tell my clients all the time, and this is going to sound wild, but do it. I double dog dare you. Do it. Stand in the mirror after you take a shower and look at your breasts and see, are my nipples turning down or are they up and still perky? I have people ask me if I've had a boob job because I am 40 years old and I don't have to tuck my boobs into my belt. And when you look, if your nipples are turned upwards, then it means that you have more chi. When things are turned down towards the floor, your chi is sinking. And that is a really easy way to tell, a very quick little barometer way of telling whether you're doing too much. Okay, I know it sounds wild, but check it out. Next time you take a shower, stand in front of the mirror and take a look at yourself because your body will tell you. We have all kinds of really cool little telltale signs in our body, whether we're bleeding or not. It doesn't matter. If we are postmenopause, the breast is a really easy way to tell. Heavy feelings in your pelvis is a really easy way to tell. When you're in your bleeding years, the things that I just mentioned help to tell, but also your period will be heavier on day one. So when people say that their periods are heaviest on day one, that is a sinking chi situation. There's a little bit of pressure behind the door and it just busts that thing wide open and there's no regulatory control. It just whoosh down it comes. Or people who stand up and they feel a whoosh. I used to experience that a lot. I not only had short cycles, but I'd be sitting at my desk when I worked a W-2 job in a past life. And those jobs were really stressful. I was working in a predominantly male environment and I was expected to work like a man. And I was good at my job, but I couldn't maintain that pace because my body's not wired to do that. So when I would push and push and push and push and push, my period would come and I would stand up from my desk to go to the bathroom and whoosh, and I would like panic the entire way to the bathroom going, "Oh gosh, please don't tell me I bled through my clothes." Anybody resonate with that? So when we overtax our mental energy, it directly affects our spleen chi and our body's ability to transform and hold what it's supposed to. So things begin to sink. You get heavier feelings in your pelvis. You might have more urgency to pee. That can also be a yang deficiency thing or a kidney yang deficiency thing. It's yang either way because it's not that vibrant, uplifting energy that you need in order to bring things up and to rise, right? So our bodies need balance. I know I've said this in so many episodes, but I cannot reiterate this enough. We need balance. What does that look like? That looks like tagging your partner in and saying, I need you to help me with these things. Now, men are hardwired to problem solve. Just think about when you've come home from something and you're really pissed off about it, and you look at your husband or your partner and you're like, ah, and this happened and I'm so frustrated and da, 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 right? And all of this verbal diarrhea comes flying out of your mouth. How many of you in that moment just want your partner to listen? You don't want them to solve the problem for you. You don't need them to solve the problem for you. You are not a damsel in distress, but you just want to be witnessed, seen, and heard. How many of you resonate with that? I know I do. I had to find places and spaces and sisterhood to park some of those conversations because my husband's default response, and totally natural, okay? This isn't him being a jerk. He would just be like, well, you should have done this or you should have done that or whatever. And how does that feel to a woman? Like criticism, right? He's not intending it that way. Your male counterpart is just trying to help you because they love you and they see that you're stressed out. They're trying to solve a problem. So instead of bearing this invisible load all by yourself and then having friction in your relationship because you cannot sexually engage because you're mentally fried. And for women, you've got to get the brain on board in order for the body to follow. Why do you think that romance novels are so popular? Because our brain has to get on board in order for our body to follow. Or we need a lot of foreplay because women's bodies are more like diesel engines. They have to warm up a while in order for them to think this is a good idea. But then once they're warm, they can go for miles and miles and miles, right? Women are insatiable creatures when you give them the proper encouragement, which is mental and physical both. Most relationships, you're trying to fit in your physical connection time around people knocking on the door. Like, just think about it, right? Like, there are distractions, or you are providing care for another person and it's either emotionally charged, like it might be if you're caring for a parent. You might have a lot of details that you have to remember. Maybe you're a medical proxy for somebody, like whatever it is, that is the last thing that makes you feel sexy, right? So you need that mental support as well as stimulation in order for the body to follow. We have thousands more nerve endings in our bodies. Our bodies are literally built for pleasure. And yet most women struggle with orgasm because of this mental load situation. I mean, that's the biggest cause. One of the biggest causes is this mental load situation. There's so much going on in the brain that the body just can't get there. So let's go back to the fact that your male counterpart really wants to help you, and their default setting is to provide sometimes unsolicited feedback. Okay. So if they are hardwired to help, tell them where you need help. They will step up. Feminine energy is receptive. Masculine energy is action oriented. But you have to step out of the masculine energy, the going, the doing, the get shit doneing, and invite your male counterpart into the conversation so that they can do what they do best in their divine masculine energy. You say, I am struggling with fill in the blank. I need you to help me make sure the kids take their vitamins. It would feel good to me if you could schedule the furnace cleaning, the car inspection. I mean, you have to give a concrete list, right? Because men are linear processors. And if you talk in a linear fashion and you give them a task list, they're very good at that stuff. That's what they're wired for. But you have to do it in a way where you're inviting collaboration and co-creation and not sounding like a dictator, because that's where men shut down and say you nag. Because the difference is you'll say, can you take out the trash? And he'll say, yeah, because he fully intends on doing it. But the part in that quick interchange between two partners is that nobody specified timeline. So if you say, hey, babe, it would feel good to me to have the trash taken out now because the trash guy is coming. You've stated a timeline and you've stated the why. You've appealed to their natural, logical brain. And they'll go, oh, okay. And for a lot of them, they'll put down whatever it is that they're doing in that moment and they'll go do it. If you can provide a reason why it has to be done right now. The bickering comes when you say, can you take out the trash? He says, yes. And this is just an example. I'm sure you could provide thousands of them. This is just a really clear cut example. But, please take out the trash. He says yes. And then you come back an hour later and it's still not done. And he's still sitting doing whatever it is that he was doing. Maybe he was watching TV. Maybe he was working on something. Maybe he was tinkering. Maybe he was playing video game. I don't care. He was doing something. He's still doing the thing he was doing because he was in the process of doing something. And he's a linear thinker. He is still focused on the thing that he's doing. And so then you get frustrated because you're like, well, shit, I asked for help and he's not helping me. And that makes you angry. So then you look at him and you're like, so you're going to take out the trash or what? That is like a statement that will put him on the defensive and he will feel like you're nagging him. Because you understand in your head that there's a reason why you asked in that particular moment. He does not understand that urgency because you have not communicated it to him. So if you communicate that urgency in terms of the trash guy is coming, the trash needs to be out at the curb by 8:00. Would you please take out the trash? He's going to look at the clock and he's going to go, oh shit, it's 7:45. I should do this right now. Right? But we don't give them that opportunity. And then we wonder why we have communication problems. And those communication problems lead us to go, well, I can't trust him to do this thing, so I'm just going to take care of it because it's easier. Yes, you're right. For a while, it'll be easier because then it's done on your timeline. You know it got done. You're not relying on anybody else. How many of you are nodding your head and going, yep, I'm totally understanding this hypervigilance because this is what I deal with in my own home. It's how you word it. So when you're asking other people for help, if you make statements like, it would feel really good to me if you could help me with this so that I can do this other thing, or X, Y, and Z need to be done. Would you help me by could you do me a favor and help me with X so that I can take care of Y and Z? That would help me so much. And then make sure to praise your partner when they do it. Instead of not being like, finally, God. I mean, not all of us do that, but sometimes we do because we just get so irritated asking the same things over and over and over again, right? They take it out, you acknowledge it in the moment, and you go, I see that you took the trash out. Thank you so much. That's going to go a long way because then the next time you go to take it out, they're not going to go, oh God, here she comes. What does she want now? So just think about it, okay? You do not have to bear the brunt of this by yourself. And I want you to creatively think about how you can co-create with your partner and with your children and things like this, because even little people like having jobs. Like I used to tell my youngest one, I'll be like, okay, like help mommy clean, or it's time to clean up. And then I'll make it a song. And then she's so excited. And then like 2 years old, I'd have her running around the living room, like picking up her toys and stuff. And then at the end, I'd be like, good job. And like that made her feel so good about herself. So if you get creative in terms of how to delegate that load, I set reminders in my husband's phone. Not going to lie. I went in and I set some reminders in his phone so that they would pop up because, people have ADHD. People get busy and their memory isn't top notch. I can vouch for that with baby brain right now. So I set reminders. People wonder why I remember all the things that I remember. Well, half the time it's because I have to set reminders for myself. Like, we're only human. We are not robots. So that mental work is a lot, and it leads to lots of other health problems. Liver qi stagnation, which feeds symptoms and perimenopause and menopause. And then, I see professionals talking about the rage and the anger that come with menopause. Well, yeah, when you've just quietly taken care of the things for decades and nobody helps you, you get to a point in your life where you've done it for so many years, you're just like, fuck this, I'm out. And then you get mad about it because you feel underappreciated, not seen, and not heard, right? So, learning to delegate and learning to ask for help is the difference between a bumpy perimenopausal transition. Not the only thing, but it's a really big driver. That's one thing you're going to hear on this show an awful lot this year is how important our emotional well-being is in our overall health picture. The longer I have been in practice, the more I have irrefutable evidence that the emotional body in a lot of ways is even more important in terms of being a symptom driver than anything else. Yes, we have crap in our water and crap in our air and, lots of environmental things to take care of, but our internal landscape is something we can control. And it starts with little things like delegating, taking out the trash. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.